Geek Tank is supported by listeners like you.
Get your Uru hammers and your nailer guns, a sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Use Valerian steel, it'll get you to come to the Geek Tank, to the Geek Tank, to the Geek Tank. The Rocky Mountain Geek Tank.
Hi, I'm Guy.
Hi, I'm Troy.
Hi, I'm Chelsea.
And this is Geek Tank Live.
Your fan-sized podcast.
Now with extra crazy theories to keep you up at night.
So we're broadcasting live from our favorite Starbucks at First and Wadsworth. And we're coming to you with this new question.
Woo.
What fan theories do we like?
So that's our question for today. So
There's so many fan theories,
there really are.
and we're gonna we're gonna save the best for last, which was specifically requested by one of our fans to their theory for us to examine.
Yes.
And remember, you can join us live at 8 p.m. Mountain Time on Tuesday nights if you want on Facebook. So we'll start some of the more bizarre fan theories. There's some really good ones out there. We've been talking about them all.
There's some crazy ones
So we
for
kinda,
sure.
We kind of touched on this one, I think, in one episode a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but we can go right in with that one if you want. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me, but go right ahead.
You want me to start with the Star Wars theory?
Yeah, let's get the bad one out of the way.
Jar Jar Binks is actually a Sith Lord.
Yep.
Lies.
That
Fake
one's
news.
actually...
He's super agile. He basically knows drunk fu. He's really, really lucky. Like, really, really lucky.
And in the end, you sort of are of the opinion that he brought down the entire Republic single-handedly.
Because he uses Jedi mind control, essentially, to basically manipulate the people around him into starting this whole space war.
Right.
And so they think that Binks and Palpatine were in cahoots to bring down
It's kind of hard to...
the entire...
I feel like this was someone just reaching that were just really mad that Jar Jar got so much hate that they had to try to find a way to turn it around.
I think it's a good theory. I think it's a fun theory, considering, because everybody ignores Jar Jar. Like, Jar Jar was a kid's character, and Jar Jar managed to single-handedly screw up so much in the universe that he had to be evil somehow.
Well, a bunch of teddy bears with spears took out a bunch of giant walking robots and stormtroopers, so incompetency doesn't equal master Sith gods.
I mean, either that or, like, he's just a really annoying version of Loki. He's just in it
He
to,
was the comic relief,
like-
and you can't kill the comic relief in a kid's movie. And I can't see a Sith Lord degrading themselves by stepping in poop or by sticking their tongue in between
well,
the
if somebody
things.
thinks you're an idiot,
But you
they're
can
not
be an
going to
idiot.
take you seriously,
As the
right?
chat
That's
room
how
is
you
calling
slowly...
him Darth Tongue.
Yes, but he was overplaying his hand. He can be an idiot without being that much of an idiot. I mean, Yoda did not step in poop.
But
He
he's
acted goofy
he's
and
chaotic
cute.
evil.
He wanted you to have snake soup.
I think he's stupid evil.
Yoda wanted snake soup.
I don't know.
This theory's been floating around for a long time, and I think it's a good one. I like it. It's funny.
If he had
It
that
makes me
such-
feel better about the prequels inside, and that's all that matters, because the
But isn't there a
prequels
thing
were
where you
awful.
they could sense dark side force?
At certain points, like if it was
I feel like
particularly like
Qui-Gon Jinn would have sensed the evil force upon him.
Qui-Gon Jinn didn't even see his own death coming, so
They never see their own death
I just
coming.
want to chat about that really quick.
Or maybe,
no,
actually,
come
maybe he
on.
did see his death coming, and every Jedi Master must die in front of their student in order for their student to move on.
At least Qui-Gon's battle was like legit cool.
Mm-hmm.
He got to face off versus Darth Maul.
I'll just say if he was a Sith Lord,
Mm-hmm.
then that shows how much more horrible George Lucas is for abandoning it because of fan guilt and just letting it fall to the side. I feel like his ego is so big that he would not have just let that go, that he would have continued to keep that in the movie.
I don't think they really thought that far ahead with the prequels.
Especially if people were like, he sucks, then he'd go, oh yeah, watch this reveal, and then they would reveil it. I think this was
they'd be
after.
like, oh.
Yeah, I feel like this was one of those afterwards that people were looking for it. I don't know. I feel like there's not enough there to back it. But I see the points that people are making, but you can make those same points about Ewoks.
I think we're after redemption for Jar Jar Binks. I think that's what that's all about.
God.
So that's an interesting.
That's the kind of fan theories we're going to look at.
Yes.
Now, I like your Willy Wonka and Chocolate Factory one that you found that relates it to Cabin in the Woods, because Cabin in the Woods is my favorite horror film.
It is hands down one of the best. Like, I sat through in 2 hours of that movie not knowing what was going on, and the last 45 minutes were worth it. They were so worth it. So go ahead. Wrap this theory up in detail.
All right. So I didn't print this one out, so I'm going to have to pull it from memory. So they had... can you pull it up real quick? Because they had each of the characters linked.
Yes.
So
So
in Cabin in the Woods, you have the athlete, the fool, the promiscuous woman. I won't use the word that they use since we're PG-13. And we have
the Virgin.
The Virgin, which Charlie would have been the Virgin in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I
So
believe
they're cross-playing.
Right. I think Veruca was the athlete, is what they were relating her to.
So Augustus is the promiscuous one. So his lust for food
Right.
leads to him dying in food. Violet is the athlete. She's a gum chewing champion brought down by an extreme challenge that she fails. Not for her own fault,
Like
but
physically going after that.
Yeah, she attacks it and blows up. Veruca's the fool. She runs into like that pit full of
Chasing
squirrels.
squirrels.
Yeah. In the movie, they changed it, and I don't know why they changed it in the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder. In Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it is geese that lay golden eggs, and she wants one of the geese because she wants a golden egg, and she ends up falling down a chute.
Yeah, they changed it for the Johnny Depp version. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they changed a lot of things for that.
They changed it for the Gene Wilder version.
I assumed we were talking about the Gene Wilder version because the other version's inferior, in my opinion. It's not bad. It's just
not
less.
bad. It's just different. Mike is the scholar. I always forget about the scholar. So he's
television and technology.
Yeah, he's the expert, and he's brought down by his own arrogance. I want to say Mike in the original has another downfall in the elevator, because the elevator is what shoots them from room to room because it can move multidimensionally, and the elevator is partially what brings Mike down. But I'd have to go back and read the book. It's been a really, really long time.
He wanted to be miniaturized for the television thing. Mm-hmm. So that's...
He's shrunk down and squished. And then Charlie's a virgin, and he's pure and innocent and sweet and kind.
So we're not thinking that they're the same movie because they just share the tropes.
Not the same movie.
They just share
but
the
that
trope.
It's this, that there was really something dark and sinister going on because all of the fans who won, quote unquote, the golden tickets were all rigged and controlled because they were picked for who they are and brought there and sacrificed for whatever ritual Wonka's putting together.
Oh.
And so they were set up to lose.
Well, and at the very end, Charlie's going to need to lose his innocence because he's going to have to find out that
Well,
all
they
those
say
children were
in Cabin in the
sacrificed.
Woods that as long as all the others are dead, the virgins give or take, everything's fine.
Everything's fine. So the virgin's just like your ace
Yeah.
in the hole. If everything
Right.
else goes wrong, you just
Well, you
throw
have
in the
to have
virgin.
them all
and
die in a
everything's fine.
specific order, and you have to have those first ones die, and then the virgin usually ends up dying. But if they don't, it doesn't break the ritual.
Gotcha.
I won't say too much more in case people haven't seen Cabin in the Woods because they should go see it. It's
Even I've
It's-
seen it.
Yeah.
I had to warn
Amazingly.
you, like the 15 jumpy scenes.
Yeah.
I had to
You
memorize.
You sit there. You sat there and nudged me every time.
It's gonna be jumpy scene.
Well, and, like, my biggest thing when I was reading the book, even as a kid, I was like, they're all dead. And my mom was like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, well, Augustus is boiled to death in that boiling hot chocolate because you have to boil all the ingredients together and then solidify them.
Yep.
Veruca is popped. I think
She's
that
juiced.
they just pop her.
Yeah.
They just pop her. Or Violet. Is
Violet.
popped.
Yeah.
Veruca is torn to shreds, essentially, and Mike, he's picked up out of the television, just squished.
Yeah.
I thought they were all
knew
dead.
that. I knew that whenever I watched it when I was a kid. I was like, they're all dead.
Isn't that weird though? Like, we have to talk about one thing though, with Willy Wonka the Chocolate Factory. That tunnel scene is still the most terrifying thing from my childhood, other than Black Cauldron. That scene makes no freaking sense. It is weird and it is crazy.
I feel like Marilyn Manson used that for one of his videos, or if
He
maybe a
must
fan
have.
did.
Oh my
I feel
god.
like a fan put that to something.
Oh my god!
Oh wait, no, I know what it is. Marilyn Manson covered the song that's used in the tunnel. That's why I have that associated in my
he
head.
did. Of course he
Yeah,
did.
that's
Of
one of
course
the scenes.
Marilyn Manson covered that.
It fits way
Come
better.
on, it fits
Part
him.
of it is also that entire scene has Gene Wilder like looking not happy, but like terrifyingly weird through the entire scene.
Well, he's been like alone this whole time.
No, Jerry, they're not dead. They're just sleeping.
He's weird and like crazy.
Just commenting because
So-
we have a fan saying that, no, they're not dead, and he's crying. So
No,
I had
they
to, I had
are
to reassure
definitely
our
dead.
fan, no, they're sleeping, Chelsea.
They're dead.
They're sleeping.
They're dead.
Sleeping.
Right.
Oh my god,
But
don't lie to
it's
children.
But it's a lot of that. A lot of the terror in that movie comes from the look on Gene Wilder's face. Mm-hmm. You know, they roll off Violet, and he's like, you know, he looks, but he doesn't. It's not like he's like, ha ha ha, that's very funny, Violet. Ha ha ha. No, he's like serious.
Right.
He's got the serious look on his face.
Well, there was
It's terrifying.
there was another theory that Charlie's grandfather said that he used to go in as a kid, and then the factory shut down, right? And they kicked out all the people. And there was a theory that he was killing children to add them into the chocolate, and people were finding out. So he got rid of them, closed the factory, found a new way to open it, and this golden ticket thing was to get the children back in the chocolate. Like, he's a serial killer.
Sacrifices to the god of chocolate,
Yeah, exactly.
which is probably Tara, my wife. She's the goddess of chocolate.
So the secret message behind this is chocolate makes you fat. Don't eat chocolate because it's full of kids.
And give it to me. I'll take care of it for you.
Soylent chocolate.
I just realized that we can back up the fact that he knew they were going to die and wanted them to die because he'd be like, no, stop, don't. When he
Yeah.
could have actually stopped
could
them.
have
Yeah,
done
that was
something.
horrifying too.
Oh, that was so scary.
Oh my god, that whole movie is
He's like,
creepy.
please stop. Oh my god. And Charlie totally could have died because he ate the candy that was.
Yeah,
spinning him off towards a
if his
fan.
grandfather wouldn't have been there
He
to
would
help
have
tell him
died.
to burp. So,
And there
all
went the
right.
virgin.
So let's move on to another quote-unquote kids movie that's full of darkness, Harry Potter.
Oh, Harry.
I really, really like this fan theory.
Oh, I do too. This
So,
is so lovely.
For those folks who are joining late, we're talking about fan theories.
So this actually always bothered me, which is his aunt and uncle that he was left with to be raised are so mean to him.
Especially when, like, Petunia later in the series, she's like crying because she did love her sister, but she felt like they were separated too soon because she wasn't as special as Lily. And, like, you have this kind of sad sister story. And the fact that they took Harry in when he was, like, literally just dropped on their doorstep, that's a lot to ask.
I will have to preface this with I've only seen the movies, and I've only read like the first 2 chapters of the first book, so I know there's so much more information in the books that I don't have. So you got to keep in mind that all my information is coming from the movies. But if they hated Harry so much, why not just give him to an orphanage?
Set fire to him. I mean,
Set
what?
fire to him.
Or tell Dumbledore to take him back.
Take him back. And
Like,
if
we
they
can't
were
do
so
it.
evil, why would Dumbledore put him in that situation instead of letting him just stay at Hogwarts all year long?
Right.
And this fan theory I think is really cool. I'm trying to find who to give credit to here because I had it on here. So it's by Graphic Nerdity, and they claim that the is it pronounced Dursleys?
The Dursleys, yeah.
The
Dursleys.
Dursleys were originally normal.
Right.
They were a supportive couple and continued exposure to Harry Potter cursed them and turned them into resentful, hateful beasts. Now you're probably saying, well, what do you mean exposure to Harry Potter? Well, we learn in the movies, and I'm assuming the books,
Yep.
Harry Potter was a Horcrux.
And he's the last Horcrux.
And we learned also from the movies that the book that was Horcrux corrupted
Ginny.
Ginny,
Yeah.
brainwashed her.
Totally
by having
brainwashed
it, and
Ginny.
she only had it for what, a little short amount of time.
Yeah, and she ended up like pinning Mrs. Norris to like a post. She ended up smearing blood over walls. Like a lot of stuff happened.
She wasn't doing good.
No, she was not doing good at all.
And
And then
then
like Ron later
put on the necklace, which was a Horcrux, and he started acting all mean and jerky.
Mm-hmm.
And can you imagine though if you had that necklace for months, which is essentially having
just-
Harry Potter
it's
in your house
in
for
your house.
months?
This awful aura is in your house.
Surrounding it. And it makes sense because wasn't it Hagrid that handed over Harry Potter originally, though, to them? Hagrid's would have not handed him over to horrible people, so they had to have been good to start with. And they've just slowly turned into these horrible people.
Right.
I don't know. I like this
When you
theory.
hear later, kind of like Dudley and Harry make up a little bit later once in the 5th book.
Once they've been away
When-
for a while.
When Harry drives off the Dementors, maybe it's the 4th book. I'm sorry, I get them confused once we get past 4 because they're super thick and full of stuff. It's probably 4, where Harry drives off the Dementors from Dudley, and they are like at peace. Like Dudley's like, he saved me. Like this is what, my cousin would do, and there is some peace, like Harry gets the Dursleys out when things start going really, really bad. He's like, you guys need to hide. This is where you need to go. And they listen, and they're okay. They're not like screaming at him and fighting with him. They go willingly. So these are good people turned horribly, horribly bad.
Yeah, I was double checking the numbers. So yeah, they were with him for 10 years before he got his letter.
Yeah.
So
Now, mind you, his Aunt Petunia is just a frickin' monster. There is no saving Aunt Petunia here. This is just the Dursleys, mom, dad, and son. So this is Petunia, Dudley, and I can't remember the dad's name. It's been too long. But they were really good people.
I like this theory.
Oh,
But
no.
it's a
so
sad theory,
Yes.
but it makes more sense and
It turns them from these antagonists to kind of
victims of, once
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
victims
Them-
of the
Other-
one who shall not be named.
Yeah, Voldemort.
You did it,
I named him
Bob. Some call him.
Bob Demort. We'll call him Bob Demort from now on.
So I have a Lord of the Rings theory that I completely forgot about that I'm glad I looked up again because it's great. So there's the point where right before Gandalf is about to fall into the abyss, he says the words, "Fly, you fools,"
Because
and
he
they
wants all the
take
experience points. He wants all of them, and that's how he levels up so fast.
Right. That's how he ascends to level 500 or whatever. So he says, "Fly, you fools," and they interpret it to mean run.
Right.
What he actually
flight.
means is, this has gone so bad, you guys should grab the eagles and you should fly to Mordor because this is getting ridiculous.
This story is so long. We've written so many stories now. There's so many pages in this book.
Right.
I want you to go get stupid eagles and just fly to Mordor.
One of my
And
favorite
you have to remember,
YouTube-
like, the eagles are gods to a point, so they are kind of like last resort. And he doesn't need anybody to know his plans because a lot of plans have been foiled already by Sauron and by Saruman. So using the eagles is like last resort, and he drops a hint, and they literally don't take it. You're saying.
Yeah, except that I don't know. I mean,
One of my favorite
anytime you
YouTube shows,
have,
though.
anytime you have hints that are with "you fool," it never goes over well.
One of my
You know,
favorite
it's
YouTube
kinda
shows
like,
is
you
called
know-
"How It Should Have Ended."
Uh-huh.
Hershey for
Yeah.
and they like, okay, we need to destroy this ring, and it cuts to them flying over the mountain and dropping it in. They're like,
Can you
"Oh, it's
imagine
so
if we
easy.
walked this
yeah,
whole
if we
way?"
walked, I bet some of us would have died. So, yeah, that's if you haven't seen How It Should Have Ended, you should check those out.
It's so great.
But I mean, to my point though, I mean, I don't know. The only problem I have is with the wording of that.
Yeah, go
'Cause
take
it-
the birds and eagles and fly the ring to them.
Well, it's not that. It's
Takes too long.
the "fly you fool" part. I mean, it's because it's like I'm going to give Chelsea a hint that Chelsea needs to do something. Chelsea, you idiot, do this thing. She's not going to listen to me if I call her an idiot. Why is it everybody calls them the fool? Fly, you fool!
Because they're just standing there
Chelsea,
looking
you
at him
idiot.
like,
Oh,
He was
Come on.
falling. He didn't have a lot of time to
Yeah,
really...
but I mean, Chelsea, take United Airlines, you idiot! It's like, come on.
So do those Eagles charge an extra fee for each baggage piece?
I think that's
they
the
definitely
case.
charge
And
baggage
definitely
fees.
overhead
Yeah.
luggage. And if you have carry-ons,
Oh my god.
that's the worst.
All right.
And it's all in gold pieces too.
Did you have
Do you
more
want to
for
do
the-
a couple short ones?
Okay.
Blade Runner, Deckard is a replicant.
Now, this thing goes back to the first Blade Runner,
Yeah.
which in the book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, there's a scene in it that helps add to that, which he ends up in the woods and he picks up a frog, a random frog, and he's poking it, and its belly pops open and it's an android, helping kind of relay, oh, everything is an android out here. And in the director's cut of the movie, his partner leaves a little origami unicorn,
Yep.
which is in his dreams, and nobody knows that but Deckard, unless if he's
A
an
replicant
android
and
and
has
they
had
know
those memories planted.
And so I like the idea that that's the case.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of like that one. That one's a good one too.
That was a
I
fun
heard they're
one.
doing a Blade Runner TV show. Interested in that?
Possible.
I still have not seen all of Blade Runner 2049.
Two more real quick
yeah.
ones.
Airplane.
Stan Lee is a watcher, which is in the
Oh,
Marvel
yeah.
universe. They are an alien race. They can only watch, but they cannot interfere. Since he's in all of the films as a creator,
That's one
but
of the stingers in, was that Thor Ragnarok? I think one of the stingers in one of the Marvel films has him with the Watchers.
in Guardians of the Galaxy too.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's where he finally chats with the Watchers. And then this is one of my favorites for any British show or any Lifetime detective show. Jessica Fletcher, Murder, She Wrote, is secretly a huge serial killer who disguises herself as a detective and a crime novelist.
Because she's always there.
She's always there. This works for like Midsummer Murders because in Midsummer Murders, the detective's wife always is annoying. Like his wife and his kid always find bodies, so they could be serial killers.
Well, it's like because like my wife watches these British murder mysteries, and they're always in these little teeny British towns of like 400 people.
That's Midsummer Murders,
Right.
Because it's in the
That's
tiny
the one.
hamlets. Yeah.
And it's like there's 400 people with 50 murders, and I'm like, that's a significant percentage of your
and
population being killed.
on average, 2 to 5 people die each show.
Right? So that's like a significant percentage.
What I've learned from CSI and Law and Order is never, ever, ever go jogging, especially through a park, because you're either going to find a body or you're going to become a body.
Yes,
So
definitely.
that's what those shows have taught me. Speaking of bodies, I'm going to move on to my Back to the Future 2
Yes.
theory that I found that I really like.
That one's a weird
So
one.
this one's credited to Reddit user Hootinger, and it's the theory is that Marty originally got killed in the scene where he's chased through the tunnel by Biff in the car, only to be saved by Doc Brown through him coming back through time travel.
Right.
Now the proof for this is that it fixes the plot hole of how did Doc know how to go under the tunnel and use a flag to rescue him from what was about to happen. And if you think about it, if he had gotten ran over in the tunnel and the next day it would have been all over the newspaper, Doc would have read about it and went, okay, I know where he's going to be. I know how he died, so now I need a method for rescuing him. Goes
Go
back
back
through
in
time,
time.
which
Saves
means
it.
there's, and it might have taken a couple of tries to get the timing right. So there could be several alternate timelines with dead Marty McFlys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's and it's it's like, how did he know that was there? How did he know to use a rope to pick him up?
Bob Demort sounds like a pretty
Magic
nice
of time.
guy. Going back. We got to comment about Bob Demort being a nice guy.
Yeah, somebody mentioned that for those listening on our podcast and not
Yep.
seeing this.
Not seeing that.
Somebody mentioned
That
that
was
on our
That
live
theory,
feed.
though, was like
So,
wicked.
but you
Marty
think about
McFly
that,
dying
there
a
would be
whole
like
bunch.
100 Marty McFlys all over the place. And of course, the reason we don't bring this up to Marty and the reason he never says it is because it just caused like this existential
Yeah,
crisis.
His mind would snap.
Yeah, he'd just be like, I'm number how many? It's like in Supernatural, there's an episode where Sam and Dean are in this little town where the day keeps repeating, and Sam keeps watching Dean die in horrible, horrible ways. And one day he tries to warn him, and Dean just goes ape. Like, just totally goes off the walls. You can't tell somebody they've died like 1,000 times and you've rescued them. They just can't comprehend it. And they'll probably never want to time travel again. I mean,
Chelsea, I have to tell you something. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
I don't care.
Oh, okay. But you're good with dying 1,000
I have,
times.
you know, a mini.
It's an
mini
interesting
like,
take
I'm
on
good
the.
with this.
Where's my punch card?
It's an interesting take on the groundhog thing.
Yeah.
Because groundhog, it's from your perspective, and you die and come back. Mm-hmm. So what if you didn't know and other people had to save you?
Oh my God! And he's stuck in Groundhog Day for how many?
I don't know.
Somebody calculated how many years he was stuck in it, and it was bad. And there were like a couple iterations where they did just have him waking up, shooting himself, and going back to sleep and waking up again, which is awful and so not okay. Oh man!
I'm trying to remember the name of the book. There's a book that all of these repeat and do-overs are based off of.
Do-over. Wait.
Dang it.
Yeah.
But in any case, that's been used over and over again, and now
Yeah,
now there's Netflix series doll, Russian
the
doll.
Russian doll. Mm-hmm. Which has some great, like, scene construction and stuff like that, which always intrigues me. So...
All right, you guys got any fan theories you want to go into? Because I'm up to my last thing here.
Well, we've got all kinds of theories. All of them.
Oh, but I got a theory that we should go to a
Should
break,
we maybe?
right?
Yeah, let's go to a break and then we'll come back with our next theory.
Yeah, we'll go to a
So
break.
we can make some money.
And then we'll come back after this.
Hi, I'm Amy Reeder, creator of Rocket Girl and Moon Girl. You can find me at Amy Reeder on Twitter, and you're listening to Geek Tank.
Geek Tank is sponsored in part by Geek Way Homes. There's only one way to buy a home, and that's the Geek Way. And we're back.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Nick. So I'd like to
I
do
noticed that the Chelsea thing, Chelsea's not here. She just vanished.
Those who are only listening, Chelsea's totally here. I'd like to do a shout out to my mom who recently got out of the hospital. So
Hey!
yay, I'm glad you're back home.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
Doing better. And she's watching the show. So yay. So a friend of mine, the whole reason this whole episode came about with fan theories is a friend had asked me if we would want to cover kind of a fan theory that him and his wife had come up with. So they were watching Weird Science on Amazon, and they determined that the boys did not create a woman, but summoned a trickster. And
Like a
since
demon.
there are many types of tricksters, and the actions do not seem like Loki, although Chelsea will argue otherwise, which trickster is it? Or which trickster archetype of the hero's journey is it? Because trickster is like the 5th hero archetype of the 8 archetypes in hero's journey.
Right. So if you're talking about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Yes. And so in the movie Weird Science, let me back up for those who maybe haven't seen Weird Science. It's a movie that came out in 1985, starring Anthony Michael Hall, Ian Mitchell Smith, Kelly LeBrock, and I have to also do a shout out to Bill Paxton and Robert Downey Jr., although their parts were secondary and not main characters. They're 2 actors that we love.
Yeah, and we've had a memorial on Bill Paxton.
We have, and so the storyline is 1985's. It's a 1985 speculative fiction comedy written and directed by John Hughes. So you know it's already going to have a lot of bad dating advice in it. And
Such bad dating advice.
It's your typical for its time, although somewhat tame, wish fulfillment teen sex comedy with a sci-fi twist. So a pair of Hollywood nerds can't get girls on their own. They decide to build themselves the perfect woman in an effort to become popular. And so they do the whole thing where they hook up computers and do weird stuff to a Barbie doll and things, and the lightning strikes and they hack a government mainframe and spill Coke on it or something, and then all of a sudden they have
All of a sudden, they have a beautiful woman.
who they
Hey!
think is a robot, I guess. But we soon find that she has magic powers. They never call them magic powers, but she can make things manifest. She can transform people. She can create clothing out of, like, instantaneously change their clothing. So she's definitely a magical girl type thing. So
Yeah, she clearly is way beyond 1985 technology.
yeah, not a robot. And so
Definitely
the question is, what trickster god best befits the description of her? Because she does a lot of tricking and very playful. And as the under the definition of trickster mentor, there's a bunch of different kinds of tricksters. I found that trickster mentor best fit the description because that's the kind that, through seemingly pointless, selfish, antagonistic, or plain random actions, they end up teaching a very valuable lesson to the ones that they're tricking. Mm-hmm. That's completely what she does.
She does. She teaches them a lesson a little bit, like little lessons here and there.
Well, she teaches them John Hugh lessons, so they're not good lessons. As we discussed in our bad dating advice
gets them
episode.
what they want.
Yep, 16
Oh,
Candles
God.
versions of lessons, which are never good.
So, really quickly, because I do want to add this in because this is a really good point. One of our listeners, Aaron, said that they had summoned a tulpa, and I had never heard of that before. And so I looked it up.
It's kind of fish.
Tulpa is a concept in mysticism and the paranormal of a being or object which is created through spiritual or mental powers. It's adapted by the 20th century Theosophist from Tibetan Sprulpa, which means emanation or manifestation. So most modern practitioners use this term to refer to a type of willed imaginary friend, which practitioners consider to be sentient and relatively autonomous, which is interesting. I think with this combination of stuff in this case, though, considering everything she does for them and that she leaves after, and everybody else sees it, but doesn't remember it after, this could be the case. But a trickster god fits this a little bit better because sometimes when you're trying to summon something, like you see this all the time in films where they're trying to summon, like, they're trying to do a spell or they're trying to summon like good energy and they end up summoning the wrong thing instead and it murders everyone. They just managed to get a trickier being because they messed it up just enough to not get something horribly hideously bad. But a tulpa is a very interesting being. I had not heard that before.
So you, the listener who had recommended this, suggested this, didn't think Loki fit, but you felt that there were aspects of Loki that did fit, right?
There are aspects of Loki that fit.
So do we think the tulpa fits?
A tulpa fits,
Because that seems like an interesting, I mean, just
but
the
I don't. A
translation of
tulpa wouldn't be as like. I think a tulpa would be like your friend rather than something tricky. You know what I mean? They're not created to trick you. They're a manifestation to be like a friend to you. And
because we have like,
she's
we
definitely
also
not
have
a friend, really.
right.
So with Loki, the thing that I found that fit, which they don't really cover very deeply in the Avengers movies, because that's a different Loki in a way. But the Loki is known for bringing about chaos and discord, but by challenging the gods.
Yes.
So messing with gods more than humans. And they also bring about change, which Lisa definitely brought about change for the two characters. And without Loki's influence, the gods may become complacent. So Loki does actually serve a worthwhile purpose.
Loki's there to remind them that they're not impervious to anything.
The moral compass of the gods, so to
Right.
speak.
The whole story about Thor getting his hammer was actually caused by Loki. Loki cut off Sivir's golden hair. He cut all of her hair off. And he then he ran away and said, hey, whoever makes the greatest gift to the gods, I think it's like you can smush me up, or something was going to happen to Loki, obviously, where he would be in trouble. And then somebody created new hair for Sivir, another created Thor's hammer, and the last one created Odin's spear. And all did well. It was great. They each made 3 gifts, but those were like the main gifts. But Loki at the end was like, oh, you made great gifts, but I'm now a fly and you can't squish me. Bye. Like, Loki moves things through, but he causes mischief in order to do it. He causes mischief to create change.
Right.
And it's very effective. And not many can touch him. Every once in a while, he gets screwed over, but not often.
Okay, so we've got Prometheus here. We've also got in the chat room coming through.
Yeah. You can look those up. I'll cover.
What do we got on
I
Prometheus?
got, while you look that up, we've got Heinous and Dottie, in mythical trickster figures, and their following 6 traits are fundamentally ambiguous and anomalous. They are deceiver and trick players, shapeshifter and master of disguise, situation inventor. Lisa definitely was a situation inventor by summoning the Mad Max rogues. Messenger and imitator of the gods, sacred and lewd bricoler, which is basically do-it-yourself type projects.
Huh.
And it's definitely, when I was looking those up, I was like checking each box off for Lisa. And that's mythical trickster figures from 1997.
So for Prometheus,
Book.
in the Greek tradition, essentially he stole fire to give it to humanity. So he's a champion of mankind, and he's mainly seen as the author of human arts and sciences. In the Western tradition, he represents, again, human striving, particularly the quest for scientific knowledge, and the risk of overreaching or unintended consequences. So because they created this thing, it went out of control. That makes sense with Prometheus.
To some degree.
Yeah.
Although I'm starting to now, the follow-up here looks like it's probably a reference to Alien too, to the Alien franchise.
So, like, for example,
which makes some sense. We have geeky people. That makes sense.
Mary Shelley, the subtitle for the novel Frankenstein is The Modern Prometheus. So essentially, they created their own Frankenstein's monster.
The monster.
The monster.
Monster. She's
Monster.
pointing. For those of you who cannot see,
I kind of like
lots of pointing.
like a mix of gods, right? Because I do like Dionysus for this.
Right, I remember you mentioning that.
Dionysus is fun. So god of wine, of course,
Yep.
partying.
And there's
'Cause
definitely
Lisa
alcohol involved.
Takes them to the bar and convinces everybody that they're of age, and then later on induces the party to make everybody come in. Literally just creates chaos.
And she
He's-
revels in it. So,
There's
God,
more
where is
there.
it? Hang on, I'm trying to find it. I'm sorry, I lost my place. Na, na, na,
Place
na,
lossing.
na, 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 na,
So
na,
we've
na,
got
na.
a-
He's also like he's a god of religious ecstasy and ritual madness, which when you get a bunch of teenagers together, that pretty much is ritual madness.
Yep.
having taught junior high, I have to say that is very true.
So the two that I was leaning towards the most was Anansi.
I love
which is
Anansi.
the spirit of all knowledge of stories, and uses the knowledge of stories by telling parables and leading things, but also has the same magic powers and catalog of powers that all trickster gods seems to have. I guess it's like a package you take when you build a role-playing character. I'm going to be a trickster god, and you get all these powers that all trickster gods get, apparently. But then I started thinking about Puck from A Midsummer's Night Dream, because a lot of the trickster gods I kept looking up kept starting wars and killing people, and there's no death and weird science that
Yeah, it's all fun.
fun.
It's
Yeah.
just fun.
And
It's
so,
just-
like in Puck, he changes the guy into a donkey, and in Weird Science, she changes Chet to a big pile of poo.
right, and it's not. It's
Puck
not.
keeps mixing up the levers, although he didn't mean to do that. He just kind of did
A
it.
modern day version of Weird Science, if it was Puck, eventually the two kids would be into each other.
Yeah,
So
Right.
that is true. That is, and they would remember.
they would remember.
Yeah, I mean,
'Cause that's classic Puck.
Because you think about that, that actually is true. I mean, it seems like all the trickster gods want death and doom and destruction. Ultimately, there is some. At the end, there's some kind of death, and Puck never had death. He just kind of wanted to. He just liked the chaos.
Right.
Yeah.
So I
It
think
was just a lot of fun.
the concept of like a fairy fae kind of trickster, like Pan, I think was one that you had mentioned too.
Pan's
which
very
runs along the
closely
same lines as
associated with Puck, but it's a little more because this is a teenage movie and it's hormonally charged to create this woman.
Yeah.
Pan makes a little more sense because Pan is a god of fertility, of shepherds and sheep in fields, which represent fertility. So that kind of
That makes some logical
covers
sense too.
in that.
Yeah, I
So,
could see that.
I think we can all agree, definitely a trickster mentor,
Mm-hmm.
and takes several
Trentor.
elements of all the different trickster
Right.
gods. Some trivia stuff on Weird Science that I found that I thought was pretty interesting. Do-do-do-do. So there were multiple versions, and I haven't seen the basic cable version, so I don't remember some of the stuff. But in the basic cable version, they downgraded some of the lines. So instead of saying "in the family jewels," they said "in the flipping gizzard," which makes no sense. There was extra footage added to syndicated television version where a bunch of guys wearing Devo helmets try to get into the party. There was an extra scene at the very beginning where Gary and Wyatt are in the kitchen cooking. Television version removes the sequence, and to me this is an important part of the movie, where they remove the sequence where the biker leader asks Gary if he has tossed off to any good books recently. And that was a clue to him that this was safe for him to mess with because it was all part of Lisa's doing. Up until that point, he thought they were really mean bikers who were coming in to kill him. But when that line came out, that was a line that Lisa had used to him earlier. And so he's like, oh, the only way he can know this is if he's a creation of Lisa.
Okay.
And that's when because otherwise without that scene, all of a sudden for no reason they get super courageous and stand up to him. You're like, why are they doing that?
Why are they doing that?
Because they know it's going to be fine.
And there was a lot of different, I guess, copyright problems with the music. So in the home video version, they play Oingo Boingo's Weird Science as Lisa ascends the mall escalator, where in the theatrical version and TV version, they use Pretty Woman. So it's these weird things I was looking up. I was like, that's just so weird. Because these are things that I'll remember.
Is Weird Science not the title song of the film?
It is.
Well, that's what's so funny
They
is
use it
now
when-
that you mention that, of course, I never saw it in the theater. So
I've only seen the made-for-TV
I've only seen it
version.
on TV. So for me, it's Oingo Boingo's Weird
I
Science.
was like, isn't that
totally
supposed to
what
be
that
there?
movie's all about?
So the new release of the DVD restores it back to how it was originally.
That makes some sense,
Interesting.
I'm sure. I'm sure I'd watch it and go, this isn't the right song.
Yep.
Right. You're just sitting there
I'd
like,
be
this
like
is
all
wrong.
offended. Oh, this is the right song. You put the wrong song in
Isn't
here.
the way I heard it.
So I was surprised to
Jeeps.
find out there was 5 seasons of a TV show of Weird Science. I had no knowledge of this.
I remember that.
When was this made?
Hang on, I had this. There we go. 1994 through 1998.
Jesus.
So 5 seasons, 82 episodes, and then there's a 2013.
I guess 82 episodes is 5 seasons, yeah.
But there's a 2013. They tried to make another TV episode, but it's in what they call development hell.
Oh, no.
So
is
I'm sorry, not a
Lisa the coach in that series?
I'm sorry, no, it's a
or-
remake of the movie, not a remake of the television series.
Because that's what we need is a remake of the movie.
Well, we have to remake everything.
Everything in the 80s needs to be remade.
Because
Although
nostalgia.
This would be an
You
R-rated
know,
version.
I don't see anyone going back and remaking Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase films because they
Spies
literally
Like
can't
Us.
be made
I
anymore.
want a Spies Like Us remake,
Oh my God.
but without Chevy Chase.
There's a horrible film with Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd where
Only one?
Chevy Chase is like running through this town and finds out that it's got its own municipal court, and he and
I
the
saw that
gal that he's with like are stuck there. It's awful.
It is pretty rough. I admit that.
I
That
will
one's
find it
pretty
and
rough.
post it. But like, you don't see them remaking those films. Like they're remaking like the true classics, right? There were rumors that they were going to remake Labyrinth like right after Bowie died, and everybody said, "Oh no, you do not."
Oh, no, you don't.
They were going to
Oh,
remake
no.
Die Hard too, and we were like, "No, no, no."
Okay.
Well, so I think that's the best we can answer because we did our research.
Yeah.
We could not find any one trickster god that fit perfectly, but we did find the archetype category, which is trickster mentor.
yeah, we had
and-
fun with that.
We found a
did.
few that
We
come
went-
close.
And we had some fun with some of our favorite fan theories.
So I'd like to
Yeah.
shout out a thank you to James for that inspiration for that question.
There are a bunch of fan theories that go with Star Trek, and I didn't even want to bring them into this because there's literally hours of that.
Well,
and so I
there's-
was like, ugh.
Oh, there's
Just
so many
trying to
that are
bring
out
those
there right
in.
now, but they're spoilers.
But there's so much Star
They're
Trek too.
Yeah,
huge.
it becomes one of those things. So
Yeah.
it just becomes one of those things. So if you guys have fan theories
Or suggestions for
or
episodes.
suggestions for episodes, feel free to write to us at questions@RockyMountainGeekTank.com.
You can also message us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter if you want to do that as well. Either way works. So,
Or just call Guy at his home number at 33. Oh, I'm sorry.
333-555-1212.
That was-
Because that works.
really quickly, because
because
I
you were
almost forgot like a crazy
Oh, yeah.
person.
there. Well, while she's almost forgetting,
I got it.
Our show is sponsored by Geekway Homes. If you're a geek and you want a home, call Geekway Homes at www.geekwayhomes.com.
So soon we're going to be covering conventions and what picking the right convention for you is, because we're starting to get into convention season. But that had reminded me that Kobold Con had reached out to us. They are an RPG, card games, wargaming, miniatures, and cosplay convention. They're in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Their dates are April 26th through the 28th. Unfortunately, we won't be there to cover it
we
because
might be able to do Friday.
it's the same dates as Starfest.
Right. Starfest.
Yeah, but we haven't talked about this yet. So
Yeah.
before she goes off and starts talking about these things, we were all going to talk about that.
Well,
So we'll discuss
there's-
it.
There's a good chance we might do Friday there and Saturday and Sunday at Starfest. So.
Okay.
We'll see.
Well, we don't know yet.
But we'll figure that out. And it depends on the weather as well. Because
And
if there are snowstorms, it's going to be really difficult.
In case you haven't figured it out yet, Starfest is April 26th through April 28th.
And that's a big one.
That one's in
because
Denver.
Bill Shatner is going to be there, and so is Nichelle Nichols.
And so is Scott Grimes.
And so is
Yay.
Scott
but
Grimes.
Nichelle is coming back.
Nichelle's coming
It's
back.
set
It's
for
her
the
farewell
last
tour.
time.
Farewell tour.
Do you think we can get an
It's
interview?
her farewell tour. Well, maybe.
Can you interview her?
I'll interview her.
And I'll interview
cry
Shatner.
on the sidelines.
You interview Shatner.
Can I just cry while you interview
Usually
Nichelle
our
Nichols?
rule for interviews for Star Trek is that Troy interviews Star Trek people, but
Because Guy doesn't want
But
to.
Nichelle will
But
mess
Nichelle
with
and
you.
I
She's
go
a
back. Yeah.
Sweetheart.
we've got history, man.
She's a total sweetheart. And I'll just interview Scott Grimes.
and we
it'll be
always
fun.
call Geekway Homes at their website.
Scott Grimes was in a Dexter
Sometimes you
episode.
smoke signal Geekway Homes at their website.
When
Was he?
Yeah, because I was rewatching Dexter.
Yeah.
And originally when I watched it was way before Orville. And so when he shows up as one of the characters, I'm like, that's Scott Grimes. And he's basically playing the same character as
He's like,
Orville.
I know
'cause
what he looks like.
He's being all goofy and crazy, and then now he's dead.
Yeah, now he's dead.
Because it's Dexter.
Because Dexter. Okay, guys, that's the end of our show. That's all the time we've got for today. We'll see you next week at this same time. And until then, I've been Guy.
I've been Troy.
And I've been Chelsea.
And this is Geek Tank.
As always, you can email us at questions@RockyMountainGeekTank.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. We're Rocky Mountain Geek Tank. Feel free to join the conversation. We look forward to hearing from you.
Geek Tank is a production of Foxblade Media and is protected under the Creative Commons 3.0 license. Your hosts today were Guy S. Davis, C. Troy Fluor, and Chelsea Kramer. Kevin Weibler is our engineer, and our music was composed by David Coyle. Geek Tank is funded by listeners like you. Please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Foxblade.